Story 1. The last delivery of the night. I was working as a food delivery driver for a local Mexican restaurant in Boulder, Colorado. Normally, it was a pretty easy gig. I'd take orders, pick up the food, and drop it off. Simple. I didn't usually do late-night shifts, but that particular evening, one of my coworkers called in sick, and I agreed to cover for him. It was a Friday night, so I figured it would be busy, but the tips would be worth it. By the time it was past midnight, the number of orders started to die down. The restaurant was about to close when the last order came in, a single burrito and a side of nachos. My manager, Pete, asked if I wanted to take it since it was on my way home. I shrugged and took the ticket, not thinking much of it. I typed the address into my phone and immediately frowned. It was at the edge of town, past a row of dilapidated houses and warehouses. I'd never delivered that far out before, but I figured it would be an easy last run. After all, I just wanted to get home and sleep. As I drove out of town, the buildings became fewer and fewer. Eventually, the paved roads gave way to gravel, and the streetlights vanished. The sky was cloudy, blotting out the moonlight, making the whole scene even darker. I glanced at my phone's map, and it told me to take a right onto an unmarked dirt road. I hesitated. Something about the area felt wrong. I couldn't put my finger on it, but it was as if the entire place was holding its breath, waiting for something. The sound of gravel crunching under my tires seemed unnaturally loud. I drove slowly, eyes darting to the dense line of trees on either side of the road. After a couple of minutes, I saw a mailbox with the house number painted in faded white. There was a narrow driveway partially concealed by overgrown bushes and weeds. My phone buzzed with a text from the customer. "Come around to the back door. Side entrance is locked." A chill ran down my spine. The house looked abandoned. The windows were dark, some of them cracked, and the front porch looked like it hadn't been used in years. I couldn't see any cars in the driveway, and the whole place had a weird, eerie vibe. I parked the car, leaving the engine running just in case. Grabbing the food, I made my way cautiously to the back of the house. The air was heavy, thick with the smell of rotting leaves and something metallic. As I rounded the corner, I froze. There was a figure standing near the back door, facing away from me. They were tall, wearing a tattered hoodie that looked soaked from the light drizzle that had begun. "Hey, I have your order," I called out. No response. I cleared my throat and called out again, louder this time. The figure slowly turned around. My heart skipped a beat. The person's face was completely obscured by a white mask, plain, expressionless. They just stood there, staring at me without moving. I held up the food. "Your burrito." I tried to keep my voice steady. After a moment, the figure raised a hand and pointed to the door. Not wanting to approach, I hesitated. Then, my phone buzzed again. "I'm in the basement. Just leave it by the back door." At that moment, I realized something terrifying. The person in front of me wasn't the one texting me. I glanced at the phone number and saw another message. "You're here, right? I see your car lights." My stomach nodded. I slowly backed away, but the masked figure suddenly took a step forward. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped the food. "I'm just gonna leave it here," I said, setting the bag on the ground. The figure cocked their head to the side, almost curiously. Then, they slowly bent down, picked up the food, and vanished into the shadows behind the house. I sprinted back to my car, fumbling with the door handle. Just as I got in, I glanced back at the house. Another figure had appeared. This one was at the side of the building, watching me intently. It was shorter, hunched over, wearing a similar mask. I locked my doors and pulled out of the driveway as fast as I could. My phone buzzed again. "Where are you going? You didn't drop the food." I couldn't think straight. I just wanted to get away. As I drove back down the gravel road, I noticed a flickering light in my rearview mirror. It was coming from the house. Someone had turned on a lantern or something. My phone buzzed one last time. "We're still hungry." Back at the restaurant, I tried to explain to Pete what had happened, but it sounded so ridiculous even to me. He just shrugged it off, saying some people out there were a little weird. I couldn't shake the feeling that something awful was happening in that house. A few days later, I saw a news report about a missing food delivery driver. His car was found on the same dirt road, doors open, food spilled on the ground. The police said the house was unoccupied, boarded up for years. No signs of recent activity. My heart sank. The description matched the house I had delivered to. I called the cops and told them what happened, but they couldn't find any evidence of anyone living there or using it. No one could explain the masked figures or the texts I received. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing that figure, blank mask, pointing towards the door. It was as if something inhuman had been waiting for me, luring me into that abandoned house. I never took another late-night delivery after that, and to this day, I can't shake the feeling that whatever was out there was still hungry and looking for its next delivery. Story 2: The Unwanted Delivery. Working as a food delivery driver during the night shift can be both a blessing and a curse. The streets are empty, which makes for quick deliveries, but the darkness and silence also invite unease. I had been doing late-night deliveries for a small Chinese takeout place in Seattle for about 6 months. Usually, the most I had to worry about was navigating poorly lit alleyways or dealing with drunk customers. That was until one night when I found myself in a situation that still makes my skin crawl. It was a slow Tuesday night, and I was sitting in the car scrolling through social media, parked outside the restaurant, when the order came in. It was close to midnight, and my shift was supposed to end in half an hour. The address was in a residential neighborhood on the outskirts of the city, an area known for its older, somewhat run-down houses. The order itself was unusual: 3 large portions of fried rice, 6 egg rolls, and a single cup of hot and sour soup. The name on the ticket read, David H. I thought it was a lot of food for one person, but maybe it was for a late-night gathering or a few roommates. I shrugged it off, grabbed the food, and set off. The directions took me through winding roads and past old houses that looked more like haunted relics than homes. My GPS flickered a few times, as if struggling to lock onto my location, but eventually I made it to the destination. A narrow 2-story house sitting back from the road, surrounded by dense overgrown hedges. There were no lights on, and the place looked abandoned. I parked in the driveway, keeping the engine running as always. Something about the place gave me the creeps. I tried calling the number on the receipt, but it went straight to voicemail. A male voice in the message simply said, "Leave it at the door." Reluctantly, I grabbed the food and approached the house. As I reached the porch, I noticed that the door was slightly ajar. I knocked, but the door swung open wider, creaking as it did. I couldn't see much inside except for a hallway leading into darkness. "Hello, delivery," I called out. Silence. I knocked again, louder this time. No response. I contemplated just leaving the food on the porch, but then I saw something glinting from the dark hallway. 2 small, round, reflective dots. Eyes. My heart pounded. I took a step back, gripping the food bag tightly. Then I heard a whisper, almost too faint to hear. "Come in." Against my better judgment, I inched closer to the doorway, trying to get a better look. The eyes were gone. Just as I was about to leave, my phone buzzed. A text from the number on the order. "Please bring it inside. My legs are injured." That was it. My instinct screamed at me to leave. I was about to put the food on the porch when another text came in. "Please, I can't walk. Just put it on the kitchen counter." I hesitated, then decided to be cautious. I stepped just inside the doorway and called out again. Still nothing. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The house had that stale, musty smell like it had been sealed for years. Taking slow, careful steps, I walked down the hall towards what I assumed was the kitchen. The whole time, I couldn't help but feel as if someone, or something, was right behind me. The kitchen was barely lit by a single dim bulb hanging from the ceiling. There was a table pushed against the wall with a single chair and what looked like a pile of clothes on the floor. I placed the bag on the table and turned to leave. Just then, I heard something that froze me in place. A scraping noise coming from the doorway leading to the basement. My eyes widened as I saw a hand slowly appear from the shadows, followed by an arm and a man's face, half covered by greasy hair. He was crawling on his stomach, dragging himself forward with one arm while his legs trailed uselessly behind him. I couldn't move. The man looked up at me, his face gaunt and pale. His voice was barely a whisper. "Did you bring the food?" I nodded, pointing to the table. He gave a grotesque, almost satisfied smile, then dragged himself closer. I instinctively took a step back. As he reached the edge of the table, he pulled himself into the chair, his legs making sickening dragging sounds on the wooden floor. I was about to make my exit when he spoke again. "Don't go yet. They'll be here soon." Before I could ask who he meant, I heard footsteps upstairs, multiple pairs, shuffling slowly. I glanced at the ceiling, then back at the man, who was now licking his lips hungrily. "What do you mean they'll be here soon?" I stammered. "They like to eat together," he rasped, his eyes darting towards the dark hallway. That was all I needed to hear. I backed away, trying not to make sudden movements. As I reached the front door, I saw shadows moving at the top of the stairs. I bolted outside, slamming the door behind me and sprinting to my car. Just as I got in and started the engine, I looked back at the house. Through one of the upstairs windows, I saw several faces peering out, expressionless, pale, and motionless. I slammed on the gas and didn't look back. The next day, I reported the address to my manager and the police. They checked the house and found it empty. No sign of anyone living there for months. The windows were boarded up, and there were no traces of the man I had seen or any evidence of food being ordered. I checked my delivery app history, but the order was gone, completely erased. I couldn't understand it. Was it a setup, a prank, or something far more sinister? That night, while lying in bed, I received a text from an unknown number. "You didn't stay for dinner." I never worked another night shift after that. I still wonder who or what lives in that house and who else might wander in, never to return.